What? How to become a decathlete, episode 1 of 20, and here we are outside the Brunel University gym in West London. That's the Brunel University indoor track. So it's 7 o'clock on an icy December evening. I think it's about -4, something like that. And yeah, I was absolutely wrecked from Christmas break and came back. Had planned to do like a full workout today and leave it till as late as possible. Went home, had a nap. That's the track there. You can't quite see inside, but essentially they had reduced opening hours and came out, was even just going to get 10-15 minutes in just to keep the brain going, and it was all closed up, as you can see. But sitting back in the car afterwards, I was like, there is still like the main university gym. I haven't got a subscription to it, but maybe the guy will just let me in. So I went down and asked, and he let me in. I just did some biceps, some glute ham raises, and a fast 3 minutes on the bike, and that was enough to keep the ball rolling, enough to stop me gathering moss. So yeah, welcome back to the video diary and to a whole new year of athletics, and we've firmly declared ourselves for Decathlon. Those of you that have seen this channel before will have seen perhaps the Madeira series, and yeah, that was me getting back into athletics after a layoff of about 5 years, and yeah, declared for Decathlon. Managed to do a master's decathlon over 4,000 points, which just means that benchmarked as a basic level decathlete, and my mission is to become a national level decathlete, so to compete at a national level. So you've got world class, elite, then national level, then local level, and then people doing it for the fun. And as a 35-year-old, I was a 34-year-old then, but as a 35-year-old, to get to a national level in a new discipline, or in about 6 new disciplines, it's going to be a feat, but I think we can do it. So this video series is going to focus updates on what my training has been the day that I was posting, a little bit about how I'm planning out my journey, navigating just life, injuries, work, travel, tiredness, coaching, goal setting, all those things. And I've got my British Masters bib on to get me in the zone. And yeah, turn this light back on. At the end, I'll also conclude with some directives if you want to become a decathlete, particularly a decathlete as a senior, how to progress in that. So it's now 3 months on since Madeira. I've still been training. As I mentioned before, my new home is the Brunel University indoors track. I'm training with West London Track and Field, and I've also been doing some tryouts with the Stevenage Athletics Club up in Stevenage, in a town north of London. And our goal for this year, what we'll come to, is to progress towards competing more competitively here in the UK. The Masters world is fantastic, really enjoyed it, great vibe, looking forward to going back. Perhaps not this year, but it's always going to be there, whereas I've still got some life in me and some unrealised potential really at senior level. And yeah, so that's what we're doing. This segment's going to mostly talk about goal setting. Really quite tricky to do goal setting when you're a senior athlete, particularly if you're kind of doing it backwards, where you're older and then try to get into to catch up, rather than, you know, you're a high school student and you're just working through the rankings, working through the age groups and stuff. Because when you're a teenager, there's always goals, there's always just the next age group competition, you're PBing all the time, your body's quick to recover, and it's all kind of, there's a kind of pathway laid out, there's a kind of development pathway, it's particularly for higher performing athletes. Very difficult to set goals at my level because there's just nothing from between 0 and national level. there's just not much there. Um, the lowest qualification standards in the UK for us, the senior decathlete, is a 6,000, and that's just to compete at the English National Championships. There's no kind of lower qualification level. So in order to kind of make a cut and to make a standard, there's nothing there. You need to set your own goals. That's basically the problem. And if it's something that's happening over like 2 or 3 years, it's very difficult to motivate yourself towards your own goals that aren't external over that time period. So I need to be really creative, and really quite consistent, and create goals that are really meaningful, but that aren't too difficult that they're demoralising. If I just turn up and say, well, I just want to, compete and see what happens and nothing ventured, nothing gained, that's fine. But when things turn south, I'll just be like, right, well, this is just my limit. This is where I'm at. Whereas if I set my sights high, then things go south, and I have to pick myself back up and refocus on it. So that's the goal, to compete at national level. My goals for this year are going to be focused into 3 categories. So it's very easy to just set one goal. There's just one metric. I'm going to jump 18 metres in the triple jump or whatever, like Jonathan Edwards did. But if you don't make that, then the whole thing collapses down. So athletics tends to form around, goal setting tends to form around 3 different things. One's championships, 2 is teams, and 3 is performances. So everyone's trying to qualify for major championships. Everyone's trying to get in a particular team, be it like Commonwealth team or your university team or the relay team is a good one. Or championships could be even just as simple as the local regional championships. So championships, teams, and then performance is your mark you get, the number of meters you jump in the high jump or the time in 400 meters, for instance. And I'm setting goals in each of the 3 of those, because it might be that you make a particular team but not a championship, or vice versa, and it just gives you more different metrics that you can measure yourself against, and it's just more motivational. Now obviously they go hand in hand. People tend to just produce the biggest performances at the biggest championships. In general, people tend to train better when they're in a team, and people manage to make it to championships based on other performances. So they all kind of work hand in hand. So in terms of championships that I want to qualify for, well, I don't think I'm going to make this 6,000 point mark. So my championship goal is to get in the top 8 at a national levels, to get world athletics points, or equivalent world athletics points. So by equivalent, I mean I compete in a championship that I would have got athletics points if I was eligible for them. So in the indoor season, that means that if I compete at the British Nationals, which will be a part of the Scottish National Championships, and compete in the top 8, then I'll get those points, and that'll be a kind of championship goal. I'll be like a finalist, a national finalist. Much easier to do in the indoor circuit because it's not as competitive. Outdoors, my plan is actually to try and compete at the Irish National Championships, because they have an underfilled field. But if I can compete there and manage to finish in the top 8, then I'll class that as me having met that championship goal. So even if it's not as much as 6,000 points, then I'll at least be competing at a national level. Because I'm not an Irish national yet, I could become one through my parentage. Then I won't get the World Athletics points, but I would count it almost as equivalent. So that's my kind of championship goal. Then my team goal is to become the first or second best decathlete from Scotland in his first or second year. So that's mostly going to be based around juniors. So I'll be competing against the juniors coming through Scotland. They won't know it. I'll just be doing it. I'll just be looking at as the year goes on, who's clocking what performances. The only team selection that you can get for multi-events like decathlon is if you qualify for the like the European Championships or something, you're part of Team GB. Every year there's a home counties or home countries combined events international that was in Mary Peters track in Belfast last year, and they took the top 2 performances in each age category, seniors, under 20s, under 16s from each country that wished to go. And that's what I'm taking as my my metric, is that there's no category for masters athletes or senior athletes that are just kind of getting you into it. It's expected that you would have come through the ranks as a junior. So I'm just going to create my own kind of team challenge to get that. So I won't be able to compete with the other senior athletes that are coming from Scotland that will be selected for that. But I am going to pitch myself against those junior athletes on the ranking tables. So yeah, in the top 2 of decathletes from Scotland that are in their first or second year. So, and that includes under 20s, and it includes them throwing the under 20 implements as well. And then third is the performance. So I'm aiming for a 5,500 point decathlon, potentially a bit of a jump. I did jump up from 3,700 to 4,200 in the space of 6 months last year. So this would be a jump of that times 2 or 3 in terms of pure points. But I am coming on leaps and bounds, and at the competition in Madeira, although there was a slightly lower hurdles height compared to the seniors, that's the only difference between the masters really. I no heighted in the pole vault, which was worth an extra 200 or 300 points, and I've got a whole year of more advanced coaching to go here, compared to 6 months of not as intense coaching because I was injured and things. So now crucially, the 5,500 mark is no longer the mark that you need to compete at the British National Championships. That's gone up unless you're a junior, in which case it's 5,300. But when you look internationally at the Canadian nationals, the French nationals, national championships of major countries that produce decathletes, that 5,500 mark seems to be their arbitrary cut-off. So I'm going to measure myself against that yardstick and not the current British setup, because I don't think the British setup is serving athletes like myself. They're serving the under 20s, and that's part of their development strategy, and I'm not part of that. But I need a yardstick to measure myself against. So those are my 3 goals. So last year my goal was to get into the top 8 in Madeira at a certain point, which I did do, and but yeah, we need to hike things up here. So my plan is to use these performances or use these goals as springboards to then move into next year and push for national championships next year. Some really exciting championships occurring in the UK that I'm not going to be part of because they're too high level: Commonwealth Games and the European Championships. And then there's always, of course, the London Anniversary Games, a one-day event in July. Out of those 3, I'm going to try and go to at least 2 of them and watch some of the best decathletes in the world up front and get inspired by them. There's also just the British Championships that I'm trying to qualify for, and I might just go and watch them as well. So there's plenty of things to keep me going. I'm planning to do 2 indoor competitions in the winter and then 3 in the summer. I think that's the most I could or should be doing. And I might not even do all those, what with injury. And if I do excellently at some of them, I might just back off and do some Masters events as well. So also, as a kind of secondary points aim, I want to get over 5,000 points because there's been no Masters athlete that's got over 5,000 points in a senior event, or no athlete over 35 that's got over 5,000 points in a senior decathlon since 7 years. It's now 2026, and I think it's 2017. So that would be pretty cool to be the first guy in 7 years. There was a guy who got exactly 5,000, and if I get over 5,000, then I'll be the best British decathlete of my age in that time period. There is a mark on Power of 10 from like 10 years ago of a guy that got like 6,000, but I don't know if that's a misnomer. I did actually have the plan to be the first decathlete over 35 in Britain to get World Athletics ranks points. But it looks like there's actually a guy in the Surrey County Championships decathlon in September at the very, very end of last season who came second, partly due to, I think, 5 other athletes that were beating him dropping out, and then there was only 3 that finished and he came second and he was over 35. So credit to him. I'll link who he is in the group chat, in the chat, the comments, the bio, the blurb underneath. Yeah, maybe the group chat will come later. So that's my goal setting. So to conclude with goal setting for the someone looking to get into decathlon, say you're coming off a long layoff, or if you've never got into it, I would set some goals in the same areas. So you need a championship goal. You need a championship, some sort of championship that's going to galvanise you and excite you, where it's hopefully somewhere maybe different to where you are, or a big venue that you can really gun toward. Masters Championship could be great because it's all people from all over the UK. If you're in Scotland, there's the Highland Games, because there's a chance you could go and win something there. It's a great atmosphere. Maybe it's like the local championship and they've got like a multi-events, like in Norfolk. They've got the or East of England Combined Events Championships, a one-day pentathlon, and like your whole year is geared towards at one point. You need something like that, something to really focus on. It can't be too vague. I had that with Madeira. It gave me this crazy focus. All the way through last year, I was visualising being in Madeira and the warmth and the heat and the international community with all their flags and the atmosphere, and it was everything that it was promised to be. So you need something like that. You need some sort of championship, even if there isn't a qualification point, something that you're going to go and compete in, and that you've got an aim to get it to the semi-finals or something. If you're brand new to decathlon, then it could be to get like in the just to complete a multi-event in one of these championships. Secondly, team. Well, you need to join an athletics club. There's free athletics clubs all over the UK. It's a very cheap sport. You pay like, I don't know, £40-70 a year. That includes your registration with British Athletics. That gets you into a lot of their events for discounted rates, and usually includes a club vest as well. And that basically covers your track fees and your coaching for a full year. Obviously, you still need to maybe buy some spikes. Which you can pick up, beginner spikes for £10-15, and then decide from there if you're going to pay more at a later point. But yeah, you need some sort of a team goal. And a really good one for athletics is to make a relay team in like a regional championships. There is nothing better than handing a baton round with some other guys and coming like third in your county championships. You're the 6th fastest sprinter, but one guy isn't there, and another guy's injured, and you get a call up, and that's a fantastic goal to have, to be running 100 metres or 400 metres on a leg of a relay. So yeah, some sort of a team goal, and then a performance goal. Difficult to actually set performance goals initially, because you just don't know how good you are, and you don't know maybe even which event you're doing. Last year I set a 3-month performance goal, which was to get the British Masters merit standard in the 60 metre sprint in the indoors, which is a nice, achievable, easy goal. It required a bit of a push, but I knew I could do it if I trained well enough. I'd done it before. So pick a goal, pick something that's some sort of external validation, like this, you're the top 30 sprinter in your age group in the UK or something like that. Pick a goal that you're like, this has real meaning for me, and do that for the first 3 months, and then after that you can be like, right, well, that's what I got with that much effort, this is what I can expect to get with more effort, etc, etc. Really, really crucial to have these goals. There's just nobody out there that's really understanding my journey. There's no one out there that really gets my situation, because there's nobody else really doing this. There's younger decathletes. There's no other decathletes in West London that I really train with. There's a couple of juniors that I was training with about a month back. There's some blow-ins from Reading. There's some people kicking around that are, at Christmas time, because they're over in America in like a D1 college program, but then they're here for Christmas. But there's no one else doing this. There's no one else that's over 35 competing, trying to get into the nationals. Yeah, so I need to set my own goals, and ultimately that's what that's what needs to be done. This is a 20-minute video, so I'm going to cut this short. But let's get after it. We're going to become a national level athlete, and yeah, and it's just a bit unhinged. Let's do it.